the organisms of Mother Earth had a basic building block called cells. These cells have amazing resemblances and differences between plant and animal cells. These include our bacterial cells, which are prokaryotic, and eukaryotic cells like plants and animals. You will be easily able to identify and describe the function of each component of a cell by the time this episode concludes. First, it's important to define cells. We refer to cells as the basic building blocks of life, because they are the smallest unit of life that can be replicated without the help of any other cells. If we took an animal cell or plant cell and allowed it to divide into 2 cells, then 4 cells, etc., it would continue to reproduce indefinitely. However, in some cases, such as with bacteria, each cell is a complete organism. They are reproducing in this way because each division results in a new organism. However, animals and plants are multicellular, meaning they contain many cells, therefore, when their cells divide in this way, they are typically just expanding or replacing dead cells, and not creating entirely new organisms. To illustrate, let's pretend we put a human under a microscope and saw that he was, in fact, composed of individual cells. So the skin contains skin cells, the blood contains blood cells, and so on. It is estimated that an adult human body has more than 40 trillion cells, including hundreds of different types of cells. Next, we'll examine cellular structure, contrasting a plant cell with an animal cell and then a bacterial cell to see their similarities and differences. Now let's take a look at the various subcellular structures, also called organelles, that make up a cell to get a better grasp on how it's put together. First, both have cell membranes, that regulate what goes in and what goes out of the cells. Some chemicals will be able to pass through the cell membrane, while others will be blocked. Both kinds of cell have a nucleus, which is responsible for regulating cellular processes because it stores the cell's DNA. There is a gel-like substance inside the cell membrane called cytoplasm. This is the primary location for chemical reactions and the home to all the other subcellular structures. The consistency is somewhere between water and jelly, so imagine filling a water balloon with water. Mitochondria are abundant, and it is the job of these organelles to supply the cell's energy needs. In order to generate usable cellular energy, cells undergo a process called aerobic respiration, in which simple sugars like glucose are metabolized. Finally, all of these subcellular structures that we've just mentioned are shared by both animal and plant cells. Ribosomes, the black dots, are the site of protein synthesis, are abundant in both types of cells. However, plant cells also have a few extra structures, the most notable of which is a rigid cell wall made of a material called cellulose, which surrounds the entire cell. Cell walls made of cellulose are particularly sturdy, which is crucial because an excessive amount of water inside the cell would cause it to burst. Next, a permanent vacuole takes up a lot of space within the cell. This is like a large sac filled with cell sap, a solution of sugars, salts, and water that the cell can draw on as needed. And finally, they also have chloroplasts, which is where photosynthesis happens. Photosynthesis, the process by which plants convert solar energy into sugars, like glucose and oxygen, is discussed in greater depth in an upcoming episode. Chloroplasts contain the green substance chlorophyll, which is essential for photosynthesis by absorbing light energy. Chlorophyll is the substance responsible for the green color of plant leaves. Bacterial cells are the last thing we need to examine because, as we discussed earlier, bacteria are prokaryotes and are made up of a single prokaryotic cell. That makes them exactly what they sound like, a single-celled organism, or unicellular. Just like the eukaryotic cells, that we've seen, so far, Bacteria also have a cell membrane, a cell wall, ribosomes and cytoplasm. However, chloroplasts and mitochondria are never present. They lack a nucleus and instead rely on a single circular strand of DNA that floats freely in the cytoplasm and contains all the genes required for survival and reproduction. You might also see this labeled as circular chromosome or nucleoid, but they all mean basically the same thing, it's just a big loop of DNA. In addition, some bacteria have small rings of DNA called plasmids, which carry extra genes, like antibiotic resistance, that the bacteria don't need on a daily basis, but may come in handy, on rare occasions. Flagella are used by some bacteria. These thread-like structures extend from the bacteria and can rotate to propel the bacteria forward, allowing the bacteria to move.